Studying abroad is a great idea. In fact, millions of students are doing it right now, studying at some of the best universities around the world while experiencing new and exciting cultures. But there are many factors to consider when choosing where to study abroad, and cost is just one of them. So here at Times Higher Education Student, we decided to break down the cost of studying in 4 of the most popular countries around the world to help you decide where to go. So let's kick off on our home turf, the UK, and more specifically the University of Oxford, the highest ranked university in the UK. The current rate of tuition fees for UK and EU students stands at about £9,000, but this could increase. For international students looking to study at the University of Oxford, fees could be anything between £15,000 and £23,000, dependent on which course you choose. Those charges are even higher for medical students. Moving across the ocean to the highest ranked US university, we head to the California Institute of Technology, or Caltech, where tuition fees for students currently stand at $48,000. Tuition fees in the US are fairly high in general, with the annual average sitting at $33,000. Ivy League universities such as Harvard, Princeton and Yale will generally charge more than most other universities. Across the border in Canada, the University of Toronto's tuition fees will depend on the course you decide to study, as is the case in many Canadian universities, and will charge about $6,000 for domestic students. International students can expect to pay about 40,000 Canadian dollars a year. In comparison, tuition fees for the University of Melbourne are between 6,000 and 10,000 Australian dollars, depending on the subject you choose to study. International students will be charged anything between 26,000 and 78,000 Australian dollars, again depending on the course you choose. Let's get on to the things that you might be spending your money on when you're actually at university. Probably the most important of those is food. While we can't provide you with an exact figure on how much your weekly food shop could cost, we can provide a comparison on costs for something that can be considered a staple in a student's diet, the Big Mac. Currently in the UK, a Big Mac costs about £3 or $4 but in the US the cost is approximately $5. However, in Canada the cost of a Big Mac is $4 Canadian or $3 And in Australia, a Big Mac will set you back $4 Australian or $3 So for the moment, the US is looking like it might be the priciest of the bunch if you want a McDonald's fix. But how about something to wash down that Big Mac? Let's take a look at the average price of a pint of beer in our 4 countries. In the UK, and probably in the case of all of the countries, it really does depend on where you end up going to university, but the average price is around £3. In comparison, the average price of a beer in the US is $3.72, but remember that the legal drinking age in the US is 21, so we would recommend checking out lemonade prices instead. In Canada, the average beer price is far higher, coming in at around $6 Canadian, and in Australia, beer can be a whopping $8 Australian a pint. That could turn into quite an expensive night out. Rent is one of the next biggest expenditures for a student after their tuition fees. It's important to note that in different areas in each of these countries, there will be a significant difference in the rent, but the average weekly rent for students in the UK is £86. As the US is so vast and rent prices so varied, we return back to Caltech and the state of its location in California. An apartment can range from $75 to $200 a week, depending on how many roommates you have and where in the state you decide to live. In Toronto, the cost of rent is estimated to be around $900 a month, but again, it really does vary which kind of accommodation you opt for and how many people you live with. In Australia, living costs are again hugely varied dependent on the type of accommodation you settle on. So if you choose to live on campus, you can expect to pay between $90 Australian and $200 Australian per week. To rent private accommodation, it could be anything between $165 to $440 Australian per week, depending on the size of the place and the number of housemates. So there you have it. Those are some of the main living costs that you might face at university as either a domestic or an international student. For more information and advice on student finance and studying abroad, visit Times Higher Education Student or follow us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.